Hello, hello. Welcome back to KHTS Radio. I'm KHTS co-news director Jade Aubuchon, and I am joined here today by Laura Linder, who is the owner and founder of the nonprofit Exclusively First Responders. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Jade, for having me on here today.
Of course, it's unfortunate that you have to come in because it's unfortunately we had some very bad things happen last week. For those of you who are unaware, there were four law enforcement personnel with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department who committed suicide within a 24-hour period. And that is significant. There have been, I want to say, 8 total personnel with the LASD that have committed suicide in the year alone.
Right. Well, actually, those are the 8 that were reported.
Yes, and that is a very significant thing. And partially what we're
Yes.
here to talk about today is that mental health and specifically PTSD related to law enforcement and first responders in general. We're
Right.
not just talking police officers, we're also talking
Fire department,
firefighters.
EMS, even nurses and doctors. I mean, and telecommunication operators, the 911 operators, those are actually the first responders that we even reach out to when we make that first phone call. So there's a lot more out there than you think about when you think about a first responder.
Yeah, and they don't all have the support that they might necessarily need. I think something we spoke about last week is that what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And first responders have very significant special needs when it comes to mental health support. And that's what
Right.
your organization is here to help support, correct?
Yes. Yes. We are a 501(c)(3), and we incorporated in 2020. And we are in the process right now of opening a rehab for first responders who suffer with PTSD, mental health, addiction, and suicide ideation. We have a lot of resources. In Southern California right now that if somebody were to call today and say, "Hey, we need help," we have places that we can direct you to go to that already have their doors open. Most of those are for profits. With us, we just wanted to make sure that our first responders can get the help that they need without feeling like they're going to get pushed out of their jobs or red flagged. It's hard to believe that does happen. However, I have a handful of people that I could name off right now that I know that that's happened to. My partner is one of them, but she's my business partner, and I'm telling you, she has really been a driving force behind this too, because of watching what happened to her when she got shot in the line of duty. So, yeah, we're out here trying to help with the recent suicides that have just happened. We're finally at a point where you can't keep it quiet anymore. And so we are pulling the community together to pull resources together. We're thinking about the families right now, those four families, and how it affects them. It's sad that it couldn't be prevented at this point, but how can we as a community pull together to help these families right now, especially during the holiday season? Um, so we're having a meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. There's a meeting hall at Valencia Travel Village, and we're going to be meeting there to talk about resources. If anybody is a therapist and wants to be able to offer their services, if there's clergy out there that, if these families are specific to your religious beliefs, perhaps you can reach out to the families as well. We're actually trying to coordinate it so that they don't get bombarded, but we'll have one advocate that will reach out and find out what are their needs. Do they need childcare during this time while they're trying to make plans? So just basically anything, if you could stop and think to yourself, what would I need in that situation? Those are who we're reaching out to. Anyone that would like to come out and volunteer.
So you're looking for professionals mostly
Right.
in order to create a network of people who can support these families in need.
Yes. Holistic practitioners are big time. Maybe they just need to get away and do some yoga, some stress reducing, therapies. So people that want to give back to their community.
And
Yeah.
you're doing 2 of these this week,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. So Tuesday night, we decided to do 2 days because it was such a last minute pulling together everything. So Tuesday at 7, and then also Thursday at 7. Now it's limited seating, so we recommend that you register so that you can get into the seating. So we're also going to do a Zoom. It might be live stream. We're still working on that. So you can register for either. that way too, we can send out any information or follow-up information for anybody that's interested in learning more.
Perfect. Now, this is something that comes very close to your own heart. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your connections to first responders, your personal connections?
Sure. My dad was a fire captain, and back in the '60s, they didn't have a name for PTSD. I think the closest thing would have been shell shock,
Mhm.
and he had seen some really awful things. We don't really stop to think about what our first responders see on a daily basis, but you can't unthink something that you have seen or heard, right? So they are taught, don't bring it home, so they hold it in. So my dad ended up having PTSD, and became an alcoholic. And that's very typical when somebody, a human person, is hurting. We lean to something to get a quick fix. So because he was a captain, he was afraid, oh, if I tell anybody, I'm going to lose my job, get demoted. So he went every week for a year. He would sneak out to a mental health practitioner of some sort and get antabuse. And he would take the antabuse, and he would get his mental, health meeting with his doctor. And it took a year, but he was able to overcome it. So even back, for as long as time goes, these are the strongest of the strong, the proudest of the proud. These are individuals that choose to serve their communities, and they are there for us. Without them, when we have an emergency, what do we do, right? Luckily, we can call 911 and they show up. But what if they aren't right? What if they're having issues? They could make a mistake. So we really want to be able to reach out and help the people to prevent anything from happening. So my dad got help. I ended up becoming an alcoholic. That is a family disease. I overcame that. And so for 8 years now, I've just been thinking of, and creating a business to be able to help first responders. My son-in-law, same thing. He was a sheriff's deputy. He came onto a call that was his best friend. He found him dead. He was the first one on the call, and he just wasn't the same after that. He had such a hard time getting over it. So he did ask for help. When he asked for help, he realized that he wasn't treated the way that he thought he would be treated. After 15 years, he felt as though, his brothers and sisters turned their back on him. And I'm not saying anything bad about, you know, the department. I'm just saying that it's a way of life and a way of living where, it's because they are the strongest of the strong, they're expected to just rub it in the dirt. It'll be just fine. Look the other way and get over it. But, with so much happening in the world right now, these men and women really need our help to be able to, so they can keep their jobs, so that they aren't afraid to ask for the help that they need, and they can continue to do the service that they love so much to do.
All right. So, Exclusively First Responders is the name of your organization. Where can someone go to find out more about these events that you're holding this week and more about your organization?
So right now it's posted on Facebook, and if you go to Exclusively First Responders on Facebook, you'll be able to see the event. We're hosting it through Give Butter. It's a free event, so I do believe that when you're going through the registration process, there's a section that says, "Would you like to donate?" We are actually all donations. Contributions is how we continue to grow. But you do not have to do a contribution. You can just bypass that area, go straight to the registration, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night.
Perfect. You heard it right here. Hopefully, we're going to see some of our local professionals, maybe previous members of law enforcement, current members of law enforcement, who might
Hmm.
be able to help support in this peer to peer network for exclusively first responders.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Laura. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Jade.
it.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys out here spreading the news.
You got it.